going to school, and just living, the day-to-day routine as a mum. And the penny dropped. Don't get me wrong, I am a true believer that education serves a place in our development. If you don't know me, my name's Sabrina Ben Salmi, and basically I'm one of the co-founders of a secondary school called Harris Invictus. So I am a true believer in education, but that morning was a bit different to other mornings. You know those mornings when you just feel like something's got to give. I remember just going, I can't do this anymore. I was sending my children to school and I didn't know why. I actually didn't know why for a number of reasons, because it seemed like the same routine. They were going off to school, they were coming home, we were going through the same structure, and I didn't really have a plan for tomorrow. And I don't know if you can resonate with a time in your life where you're doing something, you don't know why you're doing it, but it's just something that everyone's been doing. And then you question, why am I doing it? Because I remember there's that analogy that you might have heard that it was Christmas Eve, and the mum of the family was baking a turkey, so she chopped the legs off and she put it in the oven, and her child came up and said, "Mum, why are you chopping the legs off the turkey?" She said, "Oh, your grandmother did it and your great grandmother did it. It's just the way it's always been done in our family." And the same little girl went off to the grandparents and the great grandparent and said, "Why do you, Mum, and great gran cut off the turkey legs?" And the grandmother replied, "Because in the old days, darling, the cookers wasn't as big as what we have now, so it couldn't fit." And that's what reason why we cut the legs off. And it was one of those moments for me that when we shifted from the agriculture era, where we had the farmers, and then we shifted into the Industrial Revolution, where these farmers needed to be educated to operate machinery and so on and so forth, we got taken into schools. I tend to refer to them as training camps, but that's how it kind of seemed like what it was set up for, because it was to teach you the basics of what you needed to learn as an employee. And don't get me wrong, like I said, there are different variations of schools, but my bane was, why am I doing this? So if you know me, you would know that I've got a sentence that I absolutely love, and it goes like this, as well as. So I started to think about, in addition to sending my children to school, what can I be doing? Because I think this is an issue of not so much just take them out of school and not go back, but what can I do as well as? Now, you may know that my children had an horrific time in school whereby they were bullied. Both of my girls had to be taken out of school because the bullying got so severe. So my oldest daughter, she was bullied by the teachers and the pupils. She had episodes where she had to have her shoes removed in class. She had to go through all sorts of kinds of atrocities. There was an occasion where she attended school and the teacher said, she had put her hand up and the teacher said, "Why don't you ask your tutor?" Because we did a lot of TV work back in 2007. It's something that we've been doing quite a lot of. And she said, "Why don't you ask your tutor when you get home?" And she had just experienced so much resentment in that environment. It was just diminishing her character, and slowly she started to fade away, and I removed her from the school. My other daughter was attacked twice with scissors, and there was an allegation of a teacher pinching her. There were witnesses. The witnesses said yes at first, then they changed. They were children. They were very frightened. They said that they had seen the teacher do this thing, and then they changed and said they hadn't. Now, there was so much going on just in day-to-day life, and it was a case of bullying started to become a way of life as opposed to just a one-off incident. I don't know if you remember going back to when you attended school, where bullying wasn't a regular daily occurrence, whereas now it is. It's just, what I'm seeing is that it's a conflict resolution, that if you do something to hurt me, I'm going to injure you badly and I want to see you suffer. So there's this, and I think it's to do with obviously the exposure to what they're being exposed to, social media, and so much has happened. We used to have Watershed. But one thing I do realise is that there was this heightened desensitization to violence. These children will commit some just deep-rooted violent outbursts that were just unseen in children. So if you can imagine, as a parent, I had these two things going on. So one issue is the bullying, but then I was just questioning, why are they going to school? So I remember calling a mentor of mine at the time, Humphrey Gervais, and I said, because he was financially free, he was the head of Forever Living, if I remember correctly. And I had joined, I was trying to find out what I could do, because one of my children were really sick, so I had to leave work and then find out how I could do some part-time work. And I remember speaking to him and a couple of people, and I started to say, what can I do? Because there's another saying, it takes a village. Now, if you don't know, I don't come from a very structured together family. My family's quite fragmented, and I mean beyond what you've actually seen if you've seen my family and I. So there isn't this, we've got a very massive family, but there's not a lot of communication. There's things that happened way before I was born that haven't quite been remedied with family members. Now here's the thing, I really believe in the saying, it takes a village. So what I will recognise is that where I was, in comparison to where I desired to be, something needed to happen. I recognised that I needed to learn something, and I started to ask questions because I had my why, but I didn't know the how, so I had to ask questions. So I asked a couple of questions, some of which if I remember correctly was, what are you leaving for your children? And just think of that for a moment. What are you leaving for your children? So this was one of the questions I asked him. And he's a wealthy man, he comes from a wealthy family, and he said, Sabrina, one of the biggest mistakes that anyone who's wealthy could do is leave money to a child, because that handicaps them. It teaches them that they don't have to do anything. So one thing I would not do is just hand them over access to a load of cash so they don't have to do anything. And that was shocking for me, because I didn't come from a very affluent family. We were just all working class academics, and we were just the average family. And I was like, oh, wow. Because I had this part of me sinking feeling. I had debt. I had made some serious mistakes in the past. I had been let down. And there was all these anxieties around, I couldn't afford to send them to private school. There were very little. I think I had 3 children at the time. 3, yeah, maybe around 3. I don't think Paola was born at the time. And that was quite shocking for me, that realisation. So he started to talk to me about his friends, with regards to setting up trust funds and how they would match whatever the child makes to teach them to earn. And he started talking about, if you teach a man to fish, or if you give a man a fish. So if you teach a man to fish, you teach him how to fish. He can feed himself for a lifetime. But if you give a man a fish, you're feeding him for the day. And I started to think about that around parenting. I started to think, am I teaching my children to fish, or am I giving them a fish? And at that time, I certainly wasn't giving them a fish, because I had no cash to hand over, not a lump sum anyway. But I started to think about, am I doing the right thing, whereby thinking of going to work, setting up businesses, because I wasn't in business at the time, set up business, and give them this, lump sum of cash and make their life comfortable. And I started to think about, what's the difference that makes a difference? And I continued to ask questions. And one of the questions I asked him is like, what else? And he said to me, he would actually give them education, sorry, let me just turn the education. So he was talking about financial education or personal development. So it was key life skills. And then he said he would give them his book collection. And I thought that's really interesting. Now, if you know me, you would know that I'm a bookworm. I absolutely love reading. I haven't been able to read as much as I would love to of late and of quite recently. But I love books, and I had an extensive library of all these books that I love to collect, and the essence is that when I retire, early retirement, I can sit and read all of these. I really love knowledge, good knowledge that you can really sink that can saturate your brain cells. So I started to ask these questions to different people in my environment and network, and I got very similar feedback, and that's kind of what seeded the journey. And like I said, there's many different things, but that's one of the things that seeded the journey of what's the difference that can make the difference for my children, and what is it I need to start teaching them. And in essence, when Lachey came out of school, that was the birthing of when I started to go to work with regards to associations, mentors, teachings, and so on and so forth. I've actually just arrived at the post office depot. I just felt like really just sharing that with you, because I think a lot of people, and you maybe yourself, has seen all of this glitz and glam and seeing us doing what we're doing, but we started off in a very different situation to most. In some respects, we started off in a pretty much worse situation to some people that were some of our peers. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I want you to realize that anything is possible when you actually make a choice. And one of our biggest beliefs as a family is that family teamwork makes the dream work. And that was actually coined by Chris. He said, Ben Salmi, family teamwork makes the dream. And I thought, why not just share that with the world? So that's going to be our new hashtag, family teamwork makes the dream work. So we started to go to work with regards to working as a family. And don't get me wrong, when I say working as a family, it doesn't mean that all of your family are going to be in unison to start with. But as you start to work, as you start to plant the seed, as you start to be vulnerable, as you start to be honest with where you are, you see, there's an app that I always often refer to if you see me speak on stage, the Uber app. It's got two simple entry points. Where are you and where do you desire to go? So unless you're able to be vulnerable and honest with where you are right now, how are you going to get yourself and your family to where you desire to go? And I leave that with you. It doesn't matter. See, your start is not important. What matters most is where you desire to end. Your finish does not equal your starting point. And I just wanted to share with you that it can happen as quickly, as slowly as it takes for you, because we are all individuals. But the magic really started to happen when we started to realize that yes, education serves a place. There are many children that are committing suicide due to depression. There are many parents fearful and anxious about their children's future because so much is changing so quickly with all these advancements in technology. And here's the thing, there's always been change. Change is a natural part of life. The essence is that when we're not prepared, it feels painful. When we don't have the correct support mechanisms, it feels painful. And that's one of the reasons why we put together some content for Dreaming Big Together, Mummy's Secret Recipe. And I've put together some content. So if you'd like to hear some more about that, you just say family teamwork makes the dream work. You just put in a comment below, put a hand raise, put yes I am, put I'm in, whatever it is for you. Send me a private message. You see, I'm on a mission to activate as many mothers as possible, and as a family we are on a mission to activate as many families as possible. Each of our families have something to offer. Don't think it has to be any way, because there is a systemization that you can plug into that can enable you to create some serious transformation in your family and make a huge impact, not just for others. First it starts with you, and then the ripple effects go out to others as your cup floweth over. So we are seeking to work with some really, really motivated, passionate, focused families. You see, there's one thing trying to drag the horse and lead that horse to water, but when the horse gets to there, you can't make it drink. There's another essence of teaching a man something, but here's the thing, you can't make them think. So we are not in the game of convincing and dragging, and that's not how it works. We want to work with people that are fired up, ready to go, that understand that they've got so much to give, so much to put together, they just don't know how, so they're looking for